I think there's more and more proof that the Pittsburgh Steelers are the McDonald's of the NFL. The Steelers used to be this great dynasty, the standard of the NFL. Very similar to McDonald's. McDonald's used to be the number one fast food chain in the entire world across the board. They were the standard of fast food. But right here, right now, McDonald's is simply not the standard of fast food restaurants. Right now, restaurants like Chick-fil-A, they're taking over the fast food industry, and they're the restaurants that people are looking to for a blueprint. McDonald's had its run where they were the standard, they were the most talked about commodity, and McDonald's is still a wildly successful franchise. Very similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they're not quite the standard of the NFL anymore. Just like McDonald's, no longer the standard of fast food anymore. It's not a knock on McDonald's. They will always be in the conversation for being one of the better fast food options out there. You know, McDonald's is a very safe option, I would call it. The Big Mac, the Quarter Pounder, the Chicken McNuggets, the McFlurry. It's a safe bet, a good meal. You know, you bring your kids to McDonald's, you know they're going to be taken care of. Just like the Steelers, you know, every single year, safe bet for around 7, 8, 9 wins. You know, whether they have a great quarterback or not, you know, makeshift roster or not, somehow, some way, as long as the Pittsburgh Steelers have good coaching and ideally Mike Tomlin around, they're going to find a way to win 7, 8, 9 games because they're a well-run operation. They're a well-run franchise. But here's the thing. The Steelers, they're going to be competitive, but are they going to be one of the more high-end succeeding teams year in and year out from this point going forward? I don't think so. You know, teams are going to mark the Pittsburgh Steelers on their schedule. They have the respect of everyone across the NFL. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, if you're a quarterback in college or you're a young kid playing football, you dream of being potentially the quarterback for the Steelers or being a quarterback that plays against the Steelers and beating them. That's what you dream about as a kid, you know. There's a Green Bay Packers level effect or a Dallas Cowboys level effect to the Pittsburgh Steelers where they're trailblazers of the National Football League as a franchise. And I will say this, in terms of Steelers fans, you can find them anywhere in the world, whether it be in London, France, Brazil, Seattle, Washington, you know. You're going to find Pittsburgh Steelers fans and Pittsburgh Steelers merchandise because the Pittsburgh Steelers have a large fan base. They have a large following. They sell a lot of tickets. And the same thing can be said for McDonald's. McDonald's is still one of the highest selling franchises regarding fast food. They're going to bring in revenue. They're going to bring in dollars, you know. Whether you're in Canada, Mexico City, or maybe even Madagascar, for all I know. You're going to find a McDonald's somewhere, somehow, if you dig deep enough. McDonald's is all over across the world. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, very similar to McDonald's, they peaked. And they're probably never going to be a dynasty again. The Pittsburgh Steelers will probably never be a dynasty again. They're not in the Terry Bradshaw era anymore, not even quite in the Ben Roethlisberger era anymore. And what's the likelihood the Pittsburgh Steelers ever find a quarterback as good as Terry Bradshaw or Ben Roethlisberger? This may be a hot take, but over the next 40 years, let's just play it safe. Probably never. You know, Ben Roethlisberger won multiple Super Bowls. Is top 5 to top 10 in almost every single statistical category. Terry Bradshaw won a lot of Super Bowls, won an NFL MVP at some point. These quarterbacks don't grow on trees, and the division has caught up to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baltimore is well run and respected and a Super Bowl contender. The Cleveland Browns, they've gotten their act together. The Cincinnati Bengals have a real quarterback in Joe Burrow that they believe in. They've gotten to a Super Bowl already with Joe Burrow. Now it's all about getting over the hump and potentially winning a Super Bowl if you're Cincinnati. And you got to ask the question, if Mike Tomlin leaves the Pittsburgh Steelers, what are the Pittsburgh Steelers? Are they a great team? I would contest and say no, because over the past couple of years, it seems like Mike Tomlin has been carrying the Pittsburgh Steelers as a franchise regarding him being their head coach. They've been winning games at quarterback with Mason Rudolph starting, with Duck Hodges starting. Like, they have not had these great high-end rosters the past 5, 6, 7 years, and somehow, some way, Mike Tomlin gets them into the playoffs. But if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm thinking about bouncing out of Pittsburgh because I haven't even won a playoff game in 7 years. Now, you can somewhat blame a guy like Mike Tomlin for that because you can make the argument that Mike Tomlin is somewhat overrated and also underrated because if Andy Reid or Sean McVay or Bill Belichick went through a 7-year stretch where they didn't win a playoff game, they would be getting crucified, okay? So maybe Mike Tomlin isn't quite in that level of category, but he's really, really good. You're going to make the playoffs almost every single year with Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin, 15 years into his career, never had a losing season? That's astonishing. That's amazing. The level of consistency Mike Tomlin brings you. But if you're Mike Tomlin, why are you not in a better situation? If Mike Tomlin is coaching the if Mike Tomlin is coaching the Kansas City Chiefs, are they doing any worse than what Andy Reid is doing in Kansas City? I still think Mike Tomlin can win a Super Bowl if he were coaching the Kansas City Chiefs. If he were with the San Francisco 49ers right here, right now, honest to God, I think the 49ers win Super Bowl 58 versus the Kansas City Chiefs if they have Mike Tomlin as their head coach compared to a guy like Kyle Shanahan, because at least Mike Tomlin has proven he can win a Super Bowl up to this point. Maybe Shanahan will win a Super Bowl at some point in his career, but we don't know at this point. And Shanahan has had amazing rosters. The 49ers have 14 Pro Bowlers on their roster this past year, and Kyle Shanahan couldn't get it done. So it's something to think about. But again, I'm getting a little bit off topic. When it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're the McDonald's of the NFL. It's going to be a while till they win another Super Bowl. They're not quite the standard of the NFL anymore. That's my takeaway on the Pittsburgh Steelers right here, right now. And I think that as an NFL community, we must recognize it. We must wrap our arms around it. And it's hard, if you're a Steelers fan, because you're used to being in Super Bowls. You're used to competing in the playoffs and making deep playoff runs. But right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't quite in that category. And they're on the McDonald's trajectory, which isn't bad, but I think their all-time great status has passed by in the NFL, at least for the time being.